As I sleeplessly listen to the hospital machines beep, beep, beep all night long, I look over at my mom, who is sleeping in a chair next to me. I can't help but think, why wasn't I prepared for this?
The TMI Project Story Hour presents the Period Power Stories podcast, where we tackle taboos about periods one story at a time. All storytellers are members of the Kingston High School Period Power Club, a group dedicated to destigmatizing menstruation, raising awareness of period poverty, and inspiring action to ensure free menstrual products for all students. In 2023, club members took a 10-session TMI Project True Storytelling workshop and wrote about their own experiences with periods. Now, we're sharing these stories to continue the conversation.
The views shared in this podcast are solely those of the subject and don't reflect the beliefs or opinions of TMI Project. This podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
Hi, I'm Tina, your host for today's episode, and today I have with me my interns, past interns, and a midwife. Our high school activists are supported by a group of interns every year. They're social workers in training and MSW students. Today, we have one student from Adelphi University, our current intern, Sage, and we have Rebecca, our intern from last year from Albany University. Missing today is our original period power activist, Becky, who joined us in our HUDSY documentary back in 2022, and Jamie, who's also a student at Adelphi University. We also have another guest, Whitney Hall. She's a midwife, and fun fact, my hockey teammate and player. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you can introduce yourselves and tell us one thing we don't know about you by looking at you.
My name is Sage. I'm an intern with Miss Tina, and originally I'm from upstate New York. And one thing you can't tell by looking at me is that I used to play volleyball in high school.
Awesome. Welcome.
I'm Whitney. I'm a midwife of 22 years. I can't believe how long that is. And a prior high school biology teacher, which is something you might not know about me.
I did not know that about you.
And teens.
And teens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Rebecca. Born and raised in Long Island. What brings me here is I was Tina's intern last year. One thing you can't tell by looking at me is I'm an animal lover and a vegetarian of 7 years.
Nice. I didn't know you were a vegetarian. Just so you know, Sage also has some fun dietary restrictions, so I don't get to cook for her as much. One thing you can't tell by looking at me is that I have a flock of chickens and birds and a nonprofit called the Coop Concept because I'm a little obsessed with hens. Before we get into the questions and our conversation, I'd really like to take a moment to go back in time to watch Rebecca's monologue from December 2023 with TMI Project. Let's take it over to Rebecca.
I'm a senior in high school, working 2 jobs and trying my best to manage, but I'm not managing well. I'm overwhelmed, exhausted, and not tending to my own personal issues outside of school and work. I'm already exhausted as I clock in at the coffee shop where I work. I didn't get much sleep last night. My period is heavy and I'm having severe cramping. I desperately try to chug along, despite the pain and excessive bleeding. Before I know it, the pain catches up with me. Everything goes black and I start to lose grip on reality. I faint while in the middle of helping a customer. As I come to, I lay on the cold floor, scared and confused, and bleeding from a crack in my head. I am so embarrassed. There's coffee and blood everywhere. My coworkers call my dad and 911, and I'm brought to the hospital. As my dad rushes me to the ambulance, I think, what just happened to me? I don't have a good frame of reference for what I've just experienced because nobody properly taught me about how my period can affect my body. Looking back now, there were many warning signs leading up to this moment. Like when I was 12 years old and on my period and in excruciating pain, I only just started getting my period last year. Nobody taught me about the physical pain that comes with it. I certainly didn't learn anything when my teachers gathered me and my other prepubescent classmates to watch the video last year. No, that just made us all feel even more awkward because the teachers had such weird vibes about it, and the boys kept making jokes after they returned from watching their video, which didn't even mention periods. And I'm home alone. My mom works 2 jobs, so she's not around much, and my dad doesn't know anything about periods. And even if he did, they make him very uncomfortable, so he doesn't talk about them. Ever since I started my period, I've had a heavy flow and pain that was so bad it would keep me up at night. I've tried everything to relieve the pain. Painkillers, homeopathic remedies. Even one time I made my mom and little brother walk on my back as I laid in the middle of the living room floor. All I can do is take some Midol, throw in a heating pad, and try my best to power through. It happens again in 10th grade biology class. My teacher looks at me in a panic. "You look pale," she says. "You need to go to the nurse." This is my first time of many when my period would affect my schooling. I get used to having to leave early and staying home from school entirely due to the pain. Now, in the ambulance, I look back at all these moments where my heavy flow has caused me stress and pain, while I throw up into a bucket due to the concussion I just suffered. The EMTs are sweet and kind as they try to help me. I'm scared, but I finally feel like I'm being taken care of. I feel like I'm being listened to. My best friends and family come to stay with me at the hospital. The doctors run every kind of test and keep me overnight to continue to monitor me and get to the bottom of what's going on. As I sleeplessly listen to the hospital machines beep, beep, beep all night long, I look over at my mom, who was sleeping in a chair next to me. I can't help but think, why wasn't I prepared for this? The first time I got to my period, much to my dismay, my mom celebrated it. It was a summer day, and I was devastated to see the brown stain in my underwear. "I don't want to get my period," I told her. "I'm not ready." My mom starts calling all of my relatives, exclaiming with joy, "My daughter's a woman now." My mom is crying too, but hers are tears of joy. She's not seeing me or acknowledging what I'm going through. She doesn't teach me about the different ways my period can affect my body. And she doesn't mention to me until I'm much, much older that she used to have the same type of pain when she was a kid. I guess it takes me cracking my head open to get any answers, but I finally get them. The next morning, the doctor gives me the prognosis. I'm losing way too much blood from my period, and the pain is causing my body to be exhausted. I'm offered the option to go on birth control to help regulate my periods, which will help regulate the bleeding and the pain. I'm so relieved to finally have answers and something that can actually help. Before I fainted, I never even thought about birth control as an option. In my conservative household, birth control is linked to promiscuity, and my parents are against it, even if it is a life-changing menstrual tool. This is where I start my journey in advocating for more education around menstruation. I fight for myself and get on birth control, even though it opens me up to comments and judgments from my family. After a while, they start to see the amazing results as I improve. I am now able to have healthy, mild, and normal periods without any trips to the ER. It's hard for my family to argue because they love me and they're happy to see me getting better. Today, I am grateful to stand here as an adult with access to a gynecologist, a birth control prescription, and no more pain. These are issues I have not reflected on in years, but I'm happy to tell my story alongside students who are going to help make sure no one feels as helpless as I did when I was their age. Hopefully, if we are all as committed as these youth activists to ending period stigma, we can create a future where no one has to be unnecessarily hospitalized to receive proper period care ever again.
So Rebecca's monologue starts out at a coffee shop. She's working there as a barista, and I feel like to level the playing field in embarrassment a little bit, Sage and Whitney, can you tell us one embarrassing moment about your period? I'll also answer, just to level out the whole playing field.
Having a bleed through in middle school and having to leave my math class and having my mom, who was a teacher, call my math teacher to tell her I was missing class.
Yeah. Who here has had a bleed through?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Has it ever?
Yeah. And in school?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
I mean, I think that is probably the most embarrassing thing. But for me as a kid in the early 80s, when I first got my period, you couldn't talk about it. I was taught by my mother that nobody's allowed to see it in the garbage can. You have to wrap it in toilet paper, like anything like that. And God forbid I had to ask my father to go get me any products. Those were moments where he was like, "Oh, come on, I can't do that," you know? So to have your own father be like that was just, bleh. But I think the worst thing is when you're dead asleep at night and you bleed through onto the sheets everywhere and you're at someone else's house.
Oh,
Spending the night. What do you do? Worst.
Well, since you guys already talked about bleed throughs, I think I'll talk to you all about my first experience with my period. In an Italian family, it's all like super animated, super excited, like, yes, you got your period. And for me, I was like, yeah, no, I don't want everyone to know. But my aunt came over and grabbed my boobs, and she was like, "Yay, your ninnies!" Oh my God. And I was just like, "Oh, okay." And I, and in the 90s, I was like, "Oh, okay." And I thought that was normal, right? So it was very normalized, like we're touching each other's bodies in my family, and it didn't take on for a while that like that was not normal. Yeah, that was my embarrassing story. To lead up with that, I'd also like to ask, what is one thing you wish somebody had told you about menstruation? Rebecca, you look like you want to answer. You
Like so much. I mean, going to school, I was in probably around 2010s, like, 2008. And just the lack of education was so minimal. And also to speak to your extent, the shame and the stigma that we still went through. I mean, just 15 years ago, I wish that somebody told me, like, you have options. There's things you can do for pain, and also just there's resources that you have, but were kind of non-existent for us at the time when I was in school.
We weren't told anything. Not in school, not in health class, not in, biology, not by parents. So when I had kids, I started teaching a menstrual health awareness class at the school they went to. So what I did was I brought every product I could think of, put it on a table, and just let everyone play with it. Here's a cup. Here's a tampon. Here's 8 different kinds of tampons because they all have different applicators. Here's reusable pads. Here's, so all the things. And we all just played with them and and pretended we were using them. And before they got their periods, right? So like you have to learn about this before you have your bleed through at school.
Yeah, that's really important to hear because you go from not having any kind of education, no conversations, to being like, yeah, I don't want my children to end up in that same position. So, yeah, I applaud you. Yeah. How about you, Sage?
For me, it's more learning your body, but also the options that you get around your period. So feeding your body the actual nutrition you need, like the iron deficiency that you already have that gets worse when you have your period. So instead of eating like McDonald's, you eat a steak. It's just, knowing yourself and your routine.
I feel like I was really aware of periods, but I wish I would have had some education about why my mom was having so many period cramps and so much bleeding and normalizing the not normal periods, because I really feel like that would have helped me earlier on in my period.
And that's similar to Rebecca's monologue, which
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
no one around her was, understanding how severe it is. But I also want to hold up that a lot of the medical professionals don't listen.
Yes.
So they are also not hearing how severe it is. And that is a thing we have to change from the specialists all the way down.
Last year, we were at a hockey tournament. We were just getting to Union College. And I remember just like coming down with like the total sweats and having to go up into the ice rink, taking off all of my sweaters and being in a t-shirt. And like, if you know me, that doesn't happen. I'm always cold. And I was like, guys, I'm having a hot flash. And I get down into the locker room and the ladies are all fanning me. I'm putting on my equipment because I have no choice, and we're going out to play hockey in 15 minutes. And I sit up and someone just goes, "Holy cow, Tina, you're not kidding," because there was like sweat marks. And I go to the doctor and I say to him, "Hey, I think I'm having hot flashes." And he tells me, "You're too young to have hot flashes. I think it's anxiety." And I was like, this is not anxiety. I'm about to be 40 in a few months. Like, I know my body, and this is not anxiety. So Whitney, what do you say to that?
You should come see me instead. I mean, so here's the reality. Menopause and menarche, right? Midwives see people for the whole way, from teens all the way through. And there are very specific things in all those populations. But 30% of all physicians, all physician residency programs teach menopause. 30%. So the chance that you'll go see someone who even understands what you're saying is less than half. So they are not listening.
Yeah.
Provider has to take it upon themselves to get that extra level of training, and then you seek that out. So that's the best.
Is there a way or somewhere online for listeners out there who might be going through, or watchers, people watching and listening, is there somewhere or resource?
For period help and for painful periods, because that gets into levels like endometriosis, and there could be other things going on there.
PCOS,
So
polycystic ovarian
exactly.
syndrome.
So what you need, well, one, I would like to say, if you're going to see a provider that is a person with a uterus, they're going to have some knowledge because they've lived through it, right?
Yeah.
So whomever your provider is, if they are a person with a uterus, you can ask these questions, right? In a different way. So not to diss anybody else, but that's going to give you at least some insight. And, the other thing is you can Google reviews. I mean, I hate to say this, but people put reviews out about if they got listened to in their provider's office. It's a good thing to look at.
So if you feel like you're not being listened to,
You're probably not being listened to.
So I do have a question for you, Whitney. I would really like to know if you can describe your journey on how you became a midwife and your role as midwife.
Sure. I first heard about the term when I was about 18 years old. So this is the late 80s. I think I read a book about midwifery, and I'd never heard of it. Like, what? What is a midwife? Isn't that something from the Middle Ages? Okay. Well, no. So midwives are master's degrees. So you have to have some sort of science degree, bachelor, and then go into your master's at a health-related professional university. It's a 2-year program with, we were talking about this earlier, with clinicals and with didactics. So you're in class for some of it, and then you're in the hospital for other pieces. Yeah. It's a great journey. I had a menopause clinic round. I had prenatals. We did postpartums. We did births. We did GYN, all of the different things. And of course, in every other country on the planet, there are more midwives than doctors. You have more primary care people than you have specialists. So that's how it usually goes for women's health. In the 1920s, there were 100,000 midwives in this country, and they came from all different backgrounds. Lots of immigrants, lots of Black midwives. The diversity in that career was amazing. Yeah. It got decimated, basically, throughout the 19th century, and we now have 11,000 midwives in the country. So anyone listening or watching, think about it as a career and pursue it. It's very empowering. You're helping people, and you're helping people through all phases of life. So it's just, I recommend it.
I guess maybe to get a little off topic, you took us on a nice road trip while we were at a tournament.
Oh, we
You
did.
did. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. So one of my relatives did Ancestry.com, and we found out that one of my ancestors was one of the women that was hung from the neck till dead for witchcraft in Salem, Massachusetts. So we took a road trip out to visit her. I mean, they didn't bury them at the time, of course, because they were witches. So there's no site, but they created a memorial for Susanna, and that's my middle name. And I did go back again last year because it was I think it was 16. Well, anyway, it was the anniversary of her death on July 19th. And she was she was a 54-year-old woman who was targeted. She was an outspoken woman. She was a healer, and she was my age at the time of her death. And it felt so real to me to carry forward this being a loud, outspoken healer myself, right? Like, you want to, especially in times like these, you want to stand up for what is right. And being targeted for it is part of the history there.
I feel like Salem has become quite commercialized, but in terms of going to that site and being there, hearing your story and connecting with you and just being able to kind of breathe and take in and realizing that if I was living during that time, I would probably also have been murdered. And for being loud, being outspoken, for believing in healing and helping others. And that's a really scary thought. So thank you for sharing that. This next question is for you, Rebecca. As being our featured storyteller, I'd like to know, what was it like for you to open up and share that part of your life with a live audience?
So I obviously have never done something like that before, so it was a very eye-opening experience. I will say it definitely took some courage and battling a little stage fright to be able to go up there and tell such an embarrassing, vulnerable story. So for me, it's when you put that into perspective that these teens are getting up there and doing this, you come out with a newfound appreciation for them. And that's something that still inspires me. I still am amazed by them every day, and they continue to work and advocate still today. So yeah, it definitely took some courage. But I am very glad that I did it and very happy to be back here today. I also came out of it with a newfound appreciation of production and just how much work and manpower it takes to pull this off. And shout out to Tina, because I got to see the entire process happen on your end, and just how much community engagement and work it takes to even get this far for a cause.
And it was like you didn't have much of a choice because we just threw you in and we're like, you have to do this.
Right.
Like, this is your job as an MSW student. So, like, here you are. This is what you're going to do. What was one thing that you really felt was a challenge and a moment of growth for you?
Sure. So I have not, these are things that happened to me, when I was very young. Started when I was about 12, I would say, until about 18, once I finally got to see a doctor. And these are things that I pushed to the back of my side of my brain, and I never thought about until here I am as a grown adult, talking about this stuff. And, you're like, oh, wow, we didn't get any education about this. Nobody told us anything. We were shamed upon in high school. And, my parents also came from a place where they didn't have proper education. And then when you look at it as me being MSW student and the kids don't have the proper resources or period products, it really puts it in, okay, this is like a serious problem that needs to be addressed. So I, with all this being said, this is what led me to be so passionate about it now. It's because I didn't have that realization before. So
Yeah, and it was like when we were first kind of talking about this and you telling me your story of like, oh yeah, I was in high school and I like fainted. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
wait, like back that up. Like
yeah, yeah,
you fainted at work because you were on your period and you were bleeding. And like for me as a mom too, of like, I never really had severe period problems. Like I remember being in middle school, having pain, having a lot of issues, bleed throughs, right? Like I feel like okay, we all go through that and I kind
yeah,
of also as another woman like, like get through it. Like I had to get through it, you get through it.
yeah,
But I feel like you kind of really brought it into like fruition for me of like what my daughter's going through and like realizing that
yeah,
there's normal periods and like normal stuff, but like
yeah,
fainting at work, cracking your head, like there's also
yeah.
a lot of not normal. And I guess normalizing that for my daughter.
And it's an extra added burden for
Mhm.
anyone who is experiencing gender binary or gender dysmorphism, and that's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So there's that issue to think about too.
Thank you so much for sharing. To move over to Sage, who is a current intern and not here on Tuesdays when Period Power meets, but has been getting to know every single Period Power student because they're in the office during their lunch and their study hall and their early dismissal. Tell me what it's like for you to have just kind of been dropped into this and told, hey, voluntold that you're going to be doing this work.
I honestly love experience the finishing product. I don't know how I would have taken all the process of getting where we're at right now. I love the world that I dive into with the students and running around the high school and stocking all the products that we provide. And it's just been a really interesting experience, especially when I do the direct support with students, like when they have a bleed through, doing that kind of de-escalating and changing the situation, helping. And the students are all very supportive. Like if I tell David, hey, go fill that tampon box, he'll listen.
Yeah.
But it's still the thought of, even though I'm still 6 years out of high school, how would I have acted if we had this club? Like if I had something like this available?
Can you speak real quick on the bleed through and how Kingston High School supports students that might be having a bleed through?
My individual had a bleed through, came to our office, and she came to see us. And I run our free store, which has clothing donations, and it's a partial food pantry, but we also have toiletry products. So while I was up there in the store with her, we looked through clothes, the very broad, advanced variety that we have. And I just was talking with her and kind of de-escalating it and telling her like it's okay, and then made sure she had everything she needed to get herself where she needed to be. But then after, the accountability of like going to class, and she still had to worry about that even with what she was going through, which was hard. And I had the teacher message me and ask her why she took so long.
Yeah.
So I told them back she had an accident and she's busy and I'm helping her.
Yeah.
But I still felt, even as an intern, I didn't have a place to.
If you are a teacher or a professional at a school, giving some grace and some oversight in terms of, hey, the student's having a moment, and whether or not we share that it's a bleed through or they need to change their wardrobe, we're here to support that. And we're going to allow them the time that they might need to deal with their anxiety or their feelings of frustration, change their clothing, get more pads or tampons or a cup to help them through the day, and then give them a bag to put their soiled clothing in, and you can come back and get it from us later in the day. So we're almost out of time today. So I would like to ask you all one more question. As folks in the medical and mental health field, what's one thing you would like to see change in how we view the connections between periods and mental and physical health?
I mean, I just want to see people getting the care that they need and understanding that it is their right to not suffer and to have the education and resources that they deserve. So
For me, it's just knowledge is power. Empowering people with uteri, to know what's going on in their body, right? Regardless of who they are, they should have very good access to that information from their healthcare provider. And so I want the healthcare providers to be able to give that.
yeah.
I would say more finding different alternatives rather than just medication as the first intervention. Starting in the medical field, it just feels like that's pushed instead of going different routes, even holistically.
Holistically, yeah.
Acupuncture, vitamins, minerals, food, diet.
Regular
Yeah.
therapy, exercise,
Yeah.
women's groups, menstruator groups.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ooh,
support.
menstruator groups. Okay. I like that. Well, on that note, I'd like to say thank you so much for joining us today. And you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you for doing the work you're doing.
you.
This is
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you. We're going to just.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the TMI Project Story Hour presents the Period Power Stories podcast.
If you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps.
TMI Project is available to offer true storytelling workshops and performances for your school and workplace.
To learn more or to support our work, you can find the details at tmiproject.org.
This episode was produced in partnership with HUDSY and Kingston High School's Period Power Club.
It was written and produced by Hayley Downs, Raine Grayson, and Pfeil. All episodes are shot and edited by HUDSY.
Special thanks to our partners for their generous support of this work: the Hudson Valley Foundation for Youth, the Rowley Foundation Fund for Women and Children, and the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. We couldn't do it without you.